Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another weekly report. I'm your host, The Old Dude. This week I wanted to start with a win, so I followed a couple tutorials from a channel called James Julier Art Tutorials. I'll make sure to put a link to it in the description below. And I did learn a thing or two that I've been trying to apply to my own painting. But the most important part was getting mileage, as in painting a lot to get used to the feel of it. In the original tutorial it's just a random lava ball, but I kinda saw a yin and yang symbol in there, so I had to try to make something of that. The problem is, since it wasn't planned from the start, the ball itself ends up looking a bit flat. I would have done the drawing differently if I had had the idea from the beginning. Maybe I can redo it soon. James, the creator of the tutorial, provides you with a color palette, so you don't have to think about nailing the colors or anything like that. And he does a very good job of explaining all the steps. So it's very easy to get in the zone while following one of his tutorials. If you like painting, I would recommend you try one of them. I know I will follow some more of them in the near future because most of them are about landscape painting, which I have zero experience with, so I'm eager to learn a little about that. Next up, another tutorial from James. Here's the second one. I chose this candle image because it also has fire in it, and lava and fire kinda go together. It also looked simpler than the landscape ones, and I didn't have a lot of time that day. I didn't learn a ton from this one compared to the lava ball one, but I got some more mileage out of it, and I did learn how to paint the bokeh by hand. After this one, it's back to a familiar image from last week. Here we are again with my old friend. I had some technical issues with my iPad this week, so I had to redo the sketch and the color palette for this image. For this first attempt, my mind was still contaminated from what I did last week, so I didn't apply any of the lessons I've learned this week from doing tutorials. For instance, here I am filling in the background with a very light color, when I have learned this week that I prefer starting with a darker color and adding lights on top. In my brain it makes sense to paint light into the darkness and not the other way around. But of course, when I am painting, I often forget about those things. Even though I ended up starting this image over a couple more times, I'm leaving the 2 failed attempts in because I think there's a lesson in there somewhere. Every painting is ugly at the beginning, and I think I get scared when it takes too long to get out of that. Both times I tried to fix it by adding textures way too early. Feel free to skip ahead to the last chapter if you're just interested in seeing the one I plan on finishing. The second attempt started out better, I believe. Painting light tones into the shadows looks more convincing in my eyes. But once again, instead of working with what's there, once I finish laying down the basic colors, I try to escape the ugly face of the painting by abusing a textured brush. I guess I needed to make the same mistake 3 times before I learned anything. So this is the good one. This is the one I want to finish. This time I did what one should do when trying to learn to paint. I grabbed a basic brush and I started pushing around the colors and fiddling with it until the undefined blotches of colors started looking like they could represent something. This time I don't care if the end result looks good or bad, I'm just here to learn. But you might remember I mentioned technical difficulties. For some reason my capture card stopped recording after a couple of hours, so there's a bit of work that you won't see, but I've added a still at the end with what the image looks like right now, so you can see how far I got and where I'm continuing from next week. So that's it for this one. These videos are turning out to be longer than I expected, and I realize I speak way too little compared to the duration of the clips. So for next week I will try to change up the format a little bit. Stay tuned to see how that goes. Thank you for watching and hope to see you next week.